Chapter 1. The Children of the Law of One. The Children of the Law of One, and the Edgar Cayce readings. The author of this book and I are both priests/monks of an obscure spiritual order called the Children of the Law of One. The famous, unique psychic, Edgar Cayce, referred to our order in a number of his many psychic readings. Some of the information we present in this book apparently confirms information in those readings. While this attests to Cayce's remarkable abilities, we are not experts on his readings, and thus cannot guarantee that everything here will be in agreement with them, and vice versa. But from what we do know of them, and what we have heard from people who are very familiar with Cayce, this book substantiates his readings, enhances understanding of them, and offers new ways to apply the spiritual principles spoken of in them. Apparently, the teachings in this book may also be the fulfillment of his prophecy that a John Peniel would bring to the world a message about the new spiritual order of things around 1998, the year this book was first published. Before this book was published, we were unaware of that prophecy. We attempted to publish anonymously, but were told certain distributors and chain stores wouldn't carry the book unless we put the author's name on it, so we relented. Shortly afterwards, we began hearing from members of an association founded by Cayce, the ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, telling us about the prophecy. Many said after reading the book, they were sure this was the fulfillment of it. We make no claims regarding this issue one way or the other. However, the ARE magazine Venture Inward published what many consider an intentionally negative review of this book, focusing on a relevant story and editing details rather than the teachings, or addressing the above issues. What's in a name? The name of our order is unfamiliar and odd to most people. One reason is that we have deliberately avoided public notoriety, generally preferring to live and work in peace, undisturbed, behind the scenes. The Dark Ages are still with us, despite what history books say. Sometimes specific members become famous, but only when necessary for their work or unavoidable. Another reason the name sounds odd is because of its obscure and foreign origins. The name of the order was originally expressed as one concept, and can only really be understood as a whole, but breaking it down may help you understand it better. Just try to keep this paradox in mind: the name means many things, but only one thing. The first part, the children of, relates to us all being children in the sense of subordinates of God, which we call the universal spirit, obedient to God and universal law. The end part, one, essentially means God. Rather than a giant silver-haired man in the sky, we consider God to be the totality of everything that exists, the universe itself, even thus God is the One. The middle part of the name, the law of, comes from the fact that within the One, there are universal laws that govern the operation and function of everything in the universe, applying to all things, all vibration, physical or spiritual. Put this all back together again, the children of the law of one then essentially means those who obey universal law and serve the universal spirit. Thus, something that is very important in our opinion is being in harmony with, one with, and a servant of God. The primary key to that is loving unselfishly. The rule of loving others unselfishly is sometimes called the Golden Rule. Many individuals and religions believe in the same concept. It was even the only commandment given by Jesus, and the way he said people would identify his followers, i.e., true Christians, would be recognized by loving others as Jesus did. Unfortunately, the Golden Rule is seldom lived by or focused on. It's often overlooked and not given the major significance it deserves. This book will go more into detail about that later. Throughout history, we, and branches of our order, were sometimes known to various cultures by other names also. But generally unknown to the masses, working behind the scenes, we provide inspiration and education that nourishes the best in humankind spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. It may take the form of the arts, the sciences, spiritual or political philosophy, etc., but in all cases, we bring some form of light into a world of darkness. Thus, some of our initiates have been known as scientists, artists, spiritual leaders, unusual political representatives, and freedom fighters. Anywhere and any way we can promote spirituality through unselfish love and a return to oneness, we do. Sometimes the name of our order, or one of its branches, is stolen and used by others with a dark agenda. Sometimes even the teachings are taken and twisted to serve their purposes. In their supreme selfishness, the greedy have used our names and corrupted our teachings in the pursuit of money, pleasure, power, and even world domination. I'm sure many of you can see how Jesus' name has been abused to mislead people. This also happened with the name the Great White Brotherhood. Now there are also those abusing the name Children of the Law of One. You will know the true children of the Law of One by our emphasis on unselfish love and freedom, rather than on spiritual knowledge, secret information, power, or phenomenon. Let the universal spirit, your inner voice, be your guide lest you fall into the beautiful traps of darkness. Who we are and what we do. Initiates of our order have been dedicated spiritual caretakers of humanity since human life began. We have always been vigorous proponents of truth, freedom, justice, and compassion. Our teachings and ways have always been carefully preserved and passed down directly from teacher to student, who then becomes a teacher, etc. This has continued as an unbroken chain, using all means, including reincarnation. You may or may not believe in reincarnation, but does it really matter that much if we care about each other, are good to each other, and follow the golden rule in our lives? It doesn't matter to me whether you believe in reincarnation or not, and I hope it also doesn't matter to you whether I do or not. You may have heard how one famous Buddhist spiritual leader of our times, the Dalai Lama, continues to reincarnate, repeatedly taking the same position in life, serving as a teacher and leader of the people of Tibet and of Tibetan Buddhism. This one enlightened being has now been reincarnated over a dozen times as the Dalai Lama. This practice is not exclusive to Buddhism. Enlightened teachers of the Children of the Law of One also continue to reincarnate, although they usually choose different bodies and positions in life for various reasons. Some of our order have been called ascended masters, saints who have passed on. But many actually continue to reincarnate in physical bodies, to directly aid the people of the world. While many people believe that ascended masters or saints are the highest or greatest beings, those who choose to come back to earth rather than ascend, pay the greatest price. Their continued reincarnation is a painful sacrifice that they make for all of us, including you. These loving beings make this sacrifice so that those who wake up crying in the dark and desperately reaching out for God will have someone to take their hand and help guide their way. In order to serve those who need our help, there have always been approximately 1,000 initiate monks on the earth at any given time. But as you will later read, at the time of this writing there are but a few hundred. Some live monastically, while others live amongst the people of this world. Most go about their work quietly, often unnoticed. Even though we usually strive for anonymity, many gained historical recognition. They have been known as saints, sages, founders of religions, scientists, inventors, teachers, artists, writers, musicians, philosophers, magi, and even as some of the founding fathers of the United States. But whatever their undertaking or apparent profession, they have a common earmark: they always promote and exemplify unselfish love, oneness, and freedom, and are at odds with the instigators of selfishness, hate, separation, oppression, and slavery. Leadership within the Children of the Law of One is based on, and determined by, an individual's consciousness or level of spiritual development. Thus the most humble and most self-sacrificing are the highest-ranking and powerful leaders of the Children of the Law of One. These beings have always had the most positive influence on the world throughout history. The being who was known in one of his lifetimes as Jesus is an excellent example of this. Known also by other names throughout history, he was our Grand Master, the foremost leader of the Children of the Law of One throughout the ages. His example of strength through self-discipline, caring and unselfish love, spread a message throughout the world. A message he knew would only get told throughout the world if he made the ultimate self-sacrifice. Unfortunately, after his spiritual ascension, greedy men began to misrepresent his words and deeds, use his name and edited parts of his teachings in order to gain wealth, acquire power, and even justify harm. Like the Grand Master, all but one of the Old Ones, the earliest ancient leaders of the children of the Law of One, have passed beyond the physical plane and chosen to no longer be incarnate with us here on Earth. As the current period of this cycle of Earth draws to a close, he is making the ancient teachings available to the public for the first time to provide a candle in the window of guidance and hope. John Peñol, the present head of our order, will begin his story in the next chapter. It includes the story of his physical journey through life, but for the most part, it portrays his spiritual journey. He tells his story in such a way that the reader can follow and share his thoughts, feelings, and experiences as he begins the studying and training that transforms him from a novice student monk to an initiated monk or priest. The first half of this book reveals the ancient teachings in a format of his personal relearning and changing during his days at the monastery. And in the second half, he presents our personal meditation and energy exercises.